Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going into something really tough, something that's honestly terrifying for so many people thinking about recovery from opioid addiction. We're talking about withdrawal. For just countless individuals, the sheer agony, the fear of those symptoms, it's not just a hurdle. It feels like this solid wall stopping them, from even trying to get help.
It absolutely does. And the numbers really back that up. You see figures like, 4, maybe even 5 out of 10 patients dropping out of detox just because the withdrawal is too much. It's unbearable.
5 out of 10, that's huge.
It's a brutal reality.
Yeah.
And it just highlights so clearly how much we desperately need better, more effective solutions for this huge challenge.
And that need, that search for better solutions, it brings us right to what we're focusing on today. It seems like a really groundbreaking innovation called the Morph Device.
Yeah, the Morph Device. What's really striking about it, I think, is that it's completely drug-free, 100%. And critically, it's actually got FDA clearance specifically to help reduce those opioid withdrawal symptoms.
Okay, wait. FDA-cleared and drug-free in the addiction field. That sounds really significant.
It really is.
Yeah.
Getting that kind of clearance for a medical device, especially for addiction, it means it's been through some serious checks. It means there's real evidence behind it.
Right, not just anecdotal stuff.
Exactly. It's not just a claim someone's making. It's a verified tool.
So our mission today, then, how are we going to break this down for everyone listening? What do we need to understand about this device?
Well, the plan is to really get into how this thing works, the mechanics of it. We'll trace its origins, which are kind of surprising, actually. Yeah. And explore the huge promise it seems to hold for people who are struggling right now. And then think bigger picture, what could this mean for addiction treatment down the road? Okay.
So with the Morph Device offering such a totally different approach, maybe we should first make sure we really understand the problem it's solving. Let's step back for a second and dig into why opioid withdrawal is so awful, so bad it actually stops people getting help.
Yeah, it's the number one thing. There was this survey, I think back in March 2018, of treatment professionals. And they overwhelmingly said the pure physical fear of withdrawal sickness was the biggest reason people just wouldn't even come in. It's not just feeling bad, it's terror. It literally locks people into their addiction.
That level of fear is just a massive barrier. So, okay, the science bit. Why is it so physically devastating? What is actually happening inside the brain?
Right. This is where it gets really fascinating and honestly pretty scary when you think about it. When someone gets addicted to opioids, the drugs basically they hijack the brain's natural reward system. What we usually call the dopamine system.
Okay, the dopamine system. Just quickly, what's its normal job, before opioids get involved?
So think of it like your brain's built-in system for feeling good and getting motivated. It gets turned on naturally by things like eating good food, exercise, connecting with people.
The basics.
Yeah, the basics. It gives you those good feelings, encourages you to do healthy things again. Opioids just overwhelm this system, flood it with this artificial pleasure that's way more intense. So the brain, it adapts. It starts relying on the drug for those feelings.
And it gets less sensitive to its own natural rewards, right?
Exactly, it gets desensitized. And crucially, it starts to expect those external opioids to be there.
Okay, so the brain is rewired to expect the drug. Then what happens when you suddenly stop? When the drugs aren't there anymore?
That's when things go haywire. Those opioid receptors in your brain, they're suddenly left empty, vacant. And this vacancy, it sends out these immediate panic signals. It triggers a massive response in a part of your brain called the brainstem. Think of it like the brain's primal alarm center.
An alarm center, sending panic signals. What's the alarm? What does the body do?
It unleashes this huge, uncontrolled flood of noradrenaline. It's like a pure adrenaline dump, just completely out of control. And that is what causes the absolute physical misery.
Okay.
You get the racing heart, intense anxiety, like sheer panic, sometimes uncontrollable tears, runny nose, just horrible diarrhea, gut-wrenching stomach pain, muscle cramps. It feels like your whole body is just revolting against you.
That sounds just horrific. That's the dope sick feeling people talk about.
That is exactly it. And how long this whole nightmare goes on for, that varies too, which just adds another layer of fear.
Right.
For the shorter-acting opioids, things like heroin or hydrocodone, you're generally looking at maybe 5 days, with the worst of it hitting around day 3.
5 days. But it can be longer than that.
Oh, absolutely. If you're dealing with longer-acting ones like Suboxone or buprenorphine, that could stretch to 7-10 days, maybe even longer.
Wow.
And there's methadone. Withdrawal from methadone can last up to 21 days. That's 3 full weeks.
3 weeks of that? I mean, I can't even begin to imagine going through that. It makes total sense why someone would just use again to make it stop.
It's a direct link. The physical agony is so overwhelming, it literally drives people back to using. Often, they're not even chasing a high anymore. They're just desperate to stop feeling that way. It becomes this deeply learned conditioned response. Avoid the sickness no matter what.
Okay, so given how incredibly intense that reaction is, physically, psychologically, how can a small device, something that isn't a drug, possibly even touch that? What is this Morph device, physically speaking?
It's actually surprisingly small and pretty discreet. It's basically an electrical nerve stimulator, and it gets placed just behind the patient's ear.
Behind the ear. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, the technical name for it is a percutaneous nerve field stimulator, PNFS for short.
Percutaneous, through the skin.
Exactly. It just means it sends these tiny electrical pulses through the skin to stimulate very specific nerves right in that area.
So it's not like major surgery, but it's going through the skin to target something specific underneath.
Precisely. And the whole idea is to avoid needing pills or other meds during that really critical acute phase of detox.
Okay, that's the what, but the how. That's still the big question. How does this little device actually manage to provide relief from something so powerful? What's the mechanism?
Right. This is where the story gets really clever.
Yeah.
And its origins are actually kind of unexpected. It's first looked at over in Europe, places like Austria, I believe. But not for addiction initially.
Really? What for then?
For pain treatment. Researchers basically had this breakthrough moment. They figured out that stimulating certain nerves around the ear nerves that have these direct pathways into the brain via what we call cranial nerves could really affect how we perceive pain.
Okay, cranial nerves, direct lines to the brain, affecting pain. How does that link to withdrawal, though?
So the crucial link they discovered was that this nerve stimulation, it's connected to the release of the body's own natural pain relievers, things like endorphins.
Ah, endorphins, the body's internal morphine, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
These electrical pulses basically encourage your central nervous system to pump out more of its own neuropeptides, like endorphins.
Neuropeptides.
Yeah.
So just naturally occurring brain chemicals.
Exactly. And these natural chemicals, they then go and they bind to those empty, screaming opioid receptors we talked about earlier.
Right, the vacant ones.
Yes. So it's essentially soothing that withdrawal response naturally from the inside out. It's all about empowering the brain's own comfort system, not just swapping one drug for another.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like activating the body's own internal pharmacy, but how does it tell the brain to do that? Where's the direct line?
That's the really smart part. This little device placed right behind the left ear specifically.
The left ear. Why the left?
Good question. Research suggests that particular area with its specific branches of cranial nerves, we're talking numbers 5, 7, 9, and 10. Those nerves seem to act like direct highways to the brain centers that process pain and withdrawal. By gently stimulating those specific points, it prompts your brain to flood those empty receptors with its own feel-good chemicals.
Wow. So it's really targeted. It's hitting these nerve superhighways that control, what, like 85% of the pain and withdrawal signals?
That's the estimate, yeah.
Yeah.
Around 85%. So targeting them precisely makes the response really efficient and powerful. It's not just a general stimulation, it's very specific.
Incredible. And what does the setup look like when it's actually on the person?
It's pretty straightforward. There's a small external battery part that's connected by wires to 3 tiny electrodes, basically little sticky pads, and there's also a ground wire.
Sounds like placing those pads correctly must be absolutely crucial.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It requires extreme precision. They use something called an ear map and a special meter to check skin impedance, and you need a deep understanding of the nerve anatomy there. It's definitely not something you just, slap on. It's a precise medical procedure.
Right, requires real expertise. So given that precision and this mechanism of triggering the body's own endorphins, the impact must be pretty dramatic. What does the data actually show? How effective is this thing? And how fast does it work?
The numbers are, they're pretty stunning, honestly. Studies have shown more than a 60% reduction in measured withdrawal scores in just 20 minutes.
60% in 20 minutes. That's unbelievable compared to days of agony.
And it gets even better. Within an hour, that reduction often hits 80%.
80% in an hour. Wow. Okay, that's almost hard to comprehend when you think about the usual withdrawal timeline.
It really is. It's potentially a complete game changer for that acute phase. And the device, it can stay on and keep working for up to 10 days. So it covers that worst period for most opioids.
Okay, beyond the clinical scores, what does that actually feel like for the person going through it? If they're braced for hell, what's the reality with this device?
Well, imagine those receptors in your brain that were just screaming for opioids, right? Suddenly, they're being occupied, calmed down by your body's own endorphins.
Okay.
It means those awful physical symptoms, the cramping, the being sick, the shakes, they just largely fade away. For many people, they pretty much vanish.
Vanish. That's such a powerful word for something usually so relentless.
It really is. There's a doctor, Dr. John Gerard, who's worked a lot with this device. He shared that patients consistently compare detox with the device to detox without it, or even detox with standard medications.
And what's the comparison they make?
He says they describe it almost universally as a cakewalk.
A cakewalk. The brutal, terrifying ordeal of opioid withdrawal becomes a cakewalk. That's revolutionary if it holds up.
It completely reframes the experience. Now, it's important to say, while the worst of the physical stuff might disappear, some of the underlying anxiety, that can still be there.
Right, the psychological element doesn't just switch off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even that is usually much more manageable, maybe with some standard comfort meds if needed. The main thing this does is remove that overwhelming physical agony and the sheer terror that comes with it.
Which logically must make a huge difference in whether someone actually stays in treatment, right?
Absolutely. Think about it. If you're not locked in this constant agonizing fight with your own body, if you're not consumed by pain and fear every second,
you can actually focus.
You can actually engage, you can participate in therapy, you can start doing the real work of healing. It dramatically improves how involved someone can be in their own recovery process right from the start.
That makes complete sense. Okay, let's talk practicalities then. How easy is it to get this device? Can anyone just go buy one? Where is it actually being used right now?
Good questions. Okay, first thing, you definitely cannot just buy it over the counter or anything. It is strictly a physician-prescribed medical device.
Needs a doctor's order and oversight.
Got it. That's right. And the FDA classifies it as a Class 2 medical device. That means it's seen as having potential risks, so it needs proper controls and supervision during use.
Okay, so medium risk category. Needs careful handling.
Correct. Now, in terms of where you find it, the underlying technology, the nerve stimulation idea, it's not brand new. But getting the specific FDA clearance for opioid detox is more recent.
Ah, okay.
So it's really just starting to gain traction now. You're beginning to see it implemented more widely in specialized treatment centers. The word is definitely spreading.
So treatment centers are kind of the main place someone would likely encounter this right now?
Generally, yes. That's where it's being integrated into the overall treatment plans.
Okay. Safety is always paramount with medical devices. Are there people who absolutely should not use this? Any contraindications? And what about side effects for people who can use it?
Absolutely. Safety first, always. There are definite contraindications situations where it's a no-go. For instance, anyone with a cardiac pacemaker cannot use it because of the electrical stimulation.
Makes sense. Electrical interference.
Exactly. Also, people with hemophilia or other bleeding disorders. Or if someone has active psoriasis, especially a type called psoriasis vulgaris, or any skin lesions right near the ear placement site.
Okay.
And people taking blood-thinning medications, anticoagulants, they need very careful evaluation by their doctor before considering it.
Right, potential for bleeding at the sites. So specific medical conditions, rule it out. What about side effects for those who are good candidates? Are they common? Severe?
Generally, side effects seem to be pretty rare and usually quite mild. The most common things reported are maybe some skin irritation where the adhesive pads are placed.
Okay.
You might get minor bleeding or a very small risk of infection at the points where the tiny needles penetrate the skin. Similar to acupuncture, really.
Localized stuff, mostly.
Yeah. Some people might feel their ears a bit sore or maybe have a mild allergic reaction to the adhesive tape used. And very, very rarely, someone might feel a bit faint or dizzy.
Okay. And are there any precautions people need to take right after it's put on?
Yeah, the standard advice is just to be cautious. Avoid driving or operating any heavy machinery for the first 24 hours, just in case you do feel any dizziness. And if that feeling lasts longer, then obviously avoid it for longer.
So this device helps people navigate the worst part, the physical withdrawal, makes it much more tolerable. We talked earlier about those really high dropout rates from detox, 30, 40, even 50% sometimes.
Yeah, it's a huge frustration in the treatment world. People feel so incredibly sick they just can't take it, and they leave against medical advice. Often, sadly, going right back to using just to stop the sickness. It's a tragic cycle.
So the Morph device, by making detox bearable, potentially tackles that dropout problem head on.
That's absolutely a key part of its value. If you can help someone get through detox more comfortably, you dramatically increase the chances they'll actually complete it. They stay in treatment, they get through that first massive hurdle, and can then move on to the next critical stages of recovery.
Which leads us nicely to the bigger picture, doesn't it? Because getting through detox, even if it's made much easier, that's still just step one. The device tackles the physical agony, eases the fear, lets someone stay. But the real work of recovery, healing the brain itself, that starts after detox, right?
Absolutely. Getting through withdrawal without that intense suffering is, it's transformational. But you're right, it's really just square one. The next vital phase is about helping the brain heal from the damage addiction caused, rebuilding those natural pathways and systems. And that's where we start talking about things like neuroplasticity protocols.
Neuroplasticity protocols, helping the brain rewire itself. Can you unpack that a bit? Is it like guiding the brain to form new, healthier connections?
That's exactly it. Addiction creates these really deep, ingrained neural pathways related to drug use, and it causes chemical imbalances. Neuroplasticity protocols, which can include approaches like NAD plus therapy, are designed to actively support the brain in repairing itself, rebuilding connections, and essentially learning healthier patterns.
NAD plus, what is that exactly, and how does it fit into brain repair?
So NAD plus is this really crucial molecule, a coenzyme, that's actually present in every single cell in your body. It's vital for basic stuff like cellular repair, energy production, just overall cell health.
Okay.
In the context of recovery, using specific NAD plus protocols, often through IV drips, but also oral supplements, can really help. It seems to reduce cravings, support the recovery of neurons, the brain cells, and generally just kind of jumpstart the brain's natural healing processes. It's like giving the brain the raw materials it needs to fix itself.
So it's a much more holistic, foundational approach to healing the brain after the acute withdrawal is managed?
Definitely. The whole idea is to keep patients comfortable, keep them free from withdrawal and cravings, using these natural compounded protocols, always, of course, administered by trained clinicians under proper medical supervision. It's about building the best possible foundation, both physically and mentally, for a lasting recovery.
Right. So putting this all together then, the Morph device really does sound like a powerful new tool in the toolbox. It's drug-free, tackles that huge physical barrier of withdrawal directly, and by doing that, it potentially removes so much of the fear and pain that keeps people trapped, stopping them from starting or staying in treatment.
That really is the core of it, yeah. It effectively clears the path. It makes it possible for the real deeper work of rebuilding a life in recovery to actually begin, maybe for the first time for some people.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? If you can take that first incredibly daunting step, detox, and make it significantly more humane, less agonizing, if you reduce that sheer terror, could that fundamentally shift the whole landscape of how we approach opioid treatment?
That's the really powerful, provocative question here, isn't it? Imagine if countless individuals who feel completely stuck, terrified of getting sick, suddenly felt empowered, felt like they could actually seek help, get through detox, and finally break that cycle, break that conditioned response of just avoiding withdrawal at all costs.
That's a huge what if. And it raises the question of how quickly innovations like this can actually get out there, get adopted, to really make a dent in this massive public health crisis.
It's definitely a race against time, but the potential impact feels immense.
Absolutely. And for anyone listening who wants to dig deeper into this, you can find more information directly from the manufacturer at www.themorphdevice.com. For more general treatment resources, you can check out palmspringscadrugrehabilitation.com. And there's also a number you can call to speak directly with an addiction treatment expert. That's 760-286-9946.